When a man suddenly goes silent, it can mess with your head more than you want to admit. Because it's not just the silence, it's the change. One day, he's interested, he's present. He makes you feel like there's something real happening between you. And then suddenly, he gets quieter. The replies are slower, the energy feels different. He's not gone, but he's not fully there either. And of course, your mind starts filling in the blanks. Did I say too much? Did I come across too interested? Did he lose feelings? Was I just imagining the connection? And listen, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that every silent man is secretly obsessed with you, because sometimes silence is just silence. Sometimes a man pulls away because he is not emotionally available or because he doesn't know how to communicate properly. But sometimes, especially when there was a real connection, his silence does not mean he stopped caring. Sometimes it means he got scared of how much he was starting to care. So today, let's talk about the hidden signs he may still be deeply attached, even when he goes quiet. And I want you to listen to this like we're sitting together in your room, talking honestly about him. Not in a desperate way, not in a wait forever for him way, but in a way that helps you understand what might actually be happening. Sign number 1, he goes quiet, but he does not fully disappear. This is one of the biggest differences between a man who is done and a man who is emotionally conflicted. When a man truly has no emotional attachment left, he usually creates a very clean distance. He stops checking in. He stops reacting. He stops making little excuses to stay connected. But when he is still attached, he often does this confusing half-step back. He replies less, but he still replies. He acts distant, but he still watches what you're doing. He gives less energy, but he does not fully cut the cord. And I know how annoying that is, because it makes you feel like you're stuck in the middle. You can't relax because he's not fully present, but you also can't move on emotionally because he's not fully gone. That in-between space is often where attachment shows up. He may not know how to move closer, but he also can't quite bring himself to walk away. Now, that does not mean you should chase him. It does not mean you should reward his silence by over-explaining, over-texting, or trying to pull emotion out of him. But it can mean that his distance is not as empty as it looks. Sometimes a man goes quiet because he feels too much, but he does not have the emotional language to say, I don't know what to do with this. Sign number 2, his energy changed after things started getting real. This is important. Look at the timing. Was he distant from the beginning, or did something shift after the connection became more emotional? Because some men are very comfortable with flirting. They can joke, tease, text all day, create chemistry, make you feel wanted, but the moment it starts becoming real, the moment there is emotional depth, vulnerability, or the feeling that this could actually become something, they suddenly get nervous. And you might think, wait, I thought things were going well. Why is he pulling back now? That's exactly the point. Sometimes he pulls back because things were going well, not because he didn't feel it, but because he did. For some men, emotional closeness feels exciting at first, but then it starts to feel risky. They realize they are no longer just playing around. They realize you matter. They realize your opinion can affect them. They realize they could get hurt. And instead of saying that, because that would require emotional maturity, they go quiet. They act cooler. They become harder to read. They try to get control back by creating distance. And honestly, that can feel so unfair from your side. Because you're sitting there thinking, I thought we were getting closer, while he may be panicking because he feels the exact same thing. That's why timing tells you a lot. If his silence came right after a deeper conversation, a really good date, a moment of vulnerability, or a phase where things felt especially close, there is a chance his nervous system reacted to intimacy before his heart could explain it. Sign number 3, he still reacts to you even when he acts distant. A man who is truly indifferent has flat energy. He does not really notice the details. He does not care enough to react. He does not seem emotionally affected by what you do or say. But a man who is still attached often reacts, even when he tries to hide it. Maybe he gets a little jealous, but tries to act casual. Maybe he remembers tiny things you told him. Maybe he asks about something specific from your life, even though he is acting like he is not that invested. Maybe he watches your stories quickly, but does not message. Maybe his tone changes when he thinks you might be pulling away too. That kind of reaction matters. Because attachment is not always loud. Sometimes it shows up in the small details he cannot control. The little shift in his voice. The way he suddenly becomes curious when you stop giving him as much attention. The way he tries to act unaffected, but you can feel that he is not as calm as he wants to look. And this is where you need to trust your intuition, but not let it run your whole life. Because yes, you may be sensing something real. You may be picking up on the fact that he still cares. But also, you should not have to become a detective just to feel secure with someone. So the question is not only, is he still attached? The better question is his attachment showing up in a way that feels safe for me? Because a man can care and still be confusing. A man can be attached and still not be ready. A man can feel something deeply and still not know how to treat you with consistency. And that is the part your heart may not want to hear, but your future self will thank you for remembering. Sign number 4. He pulls back right after vulnerable moments. This one is so common. You have a moment with him that feels different, softer, more honest, more emotionally intimate. Maybe he opens up about something personal. Maybe he says something that almost sounds like he is admitting he cares. Maybe the date feels especially close. Maybe there is a moment where you both feel the connection without having to force it. And then after that, silence. Not total disappearance, just this strange emotional retreat. And you're left thinking, what did I do wrong? But sometimes you didn't do anything wrong. Sometimes the closeness itself scared him. For emotionally guarded men, vulnerability can feel like losing control. It can feel like they exposed too much, like they let you see a side of them they usually protect. And after that, they may pull back to feel safe again, not because the moment meant nothing, but because it meant more than they expected. This is where male psychology can be frustrating, because many men are taught to stay composed, stay in control, not need too much, not feel too much. So when they do feel something strongly, they do not always move toward it. Sometimes they move away from it, just to prove to themselves they are still in control. But here's the reality check. His fear may explain his silence, but it does not excuse making you feel emotionally unsafe. You can have compassion for why he shuts down without accepting a dynamic where you are always waiting, guessing, and trying to be the emotionally mature one for both of you. Because yes, he might be attached, but attachment without communication can still hurt you. Sign number 5. He comes back through small doors instead of big declarations. When some men go quiet and then start missing you, they do not always come back with a dramatic message. They may not say, "I've been thinking about you." They may not admit, "I got scared." They may not explain the whole emotional process. Instead, they come back in tiny ways. They send a random meme. They ask a casual question. They reply to something like, "Nothing happened." They bring up an inside joke. They find a small reason to restart contact without making it too emotional. And I know that can feel almost insulting, because you're sitting there like, really? That's all you have to say after being weird? But emotionally guarded men often test the temperature before they step back in. They want to know if the door is still open, but they do not want to risk being fully vulnerable. So they choose something casual, something safe, something low pressure, something that lets them reconnect without having to immediately explain themselves. And this can be a hidden sign of attachment because if he truly did not care, he would not keep looking for little ways back in. But again, You are allowed to notice the sign without doing all the work. You do not have to punish him. You do not have to play games, but you also do not have to pretend nothing happened if his silence hurt you. A calm, feminine, self-respecting response could be something like, "I like hearing from you, but I did feel a shift in your energy." That is not needy. That is not dramatic. That is honest. And the right man will not be scared away by basic emotional honesty. He may need a second. He may not respond perfectly, but if he cares and has any emotional maturity, he will at least try to meet you there. Sign number 6. His silence feels conflicted, not empty. This is probably the most subtle sign, but it may be the most important. There is a difference between empty silence and conflicted silence. Empty silence feels cold. It feels careless. It feels like he is not thinking about you at all. Conflicted silence feels different. It feels like he is holding something back. Like there is tension. Like he wants distance, but also does not want to lose access to you. Like he is trying not to care, but caring anyway. And usually, you can feel that difference. Not because you're delusional, not because you're making things up, but because human connection has energy. You can often tell when someone is truly gone versus when someone is fighting themselves. When a man is still deeply attached, his silence may not feel peaceful. It may feel heavy, like there is something unsaid between you. He may act calm, but the energy between you does not feel clean. And this is where I want to be really honest with you. If you feel that he is still attached, you might be right. But that does not automatically mean you should wait for him. Because a man's hidden feelings are not the same thing as a healthy relationship. A man can miss you and still not show up. He can care and still avoid. He can be attached and still make you feel alone. So yes, his silence may be hiding feelings. But your job is not to spend your life decoding a man who refuses to communicate. Your job is to stay connected to yourself, to notice the signs, but also notice how you feel. Do you feel peaceful? Do you feel chosen? Do you feel emotionally safe? Or do you feel like you're constantly trying to understand him while slowly losing yourself? Because the right connection does not require you to abandon your own nervous system just to keep his calm. So, if he has gone silent, take a breath. Do not immediately assume you meant nothing. Sometimes men go quiet, not because the connection was fake, but because it became real. Sometimes they distance themselves because they are scared of how attached they are becoming. Sometimes the silence is not the end of the feeling. Sometimes it is the place where his fear and his feelings are fighting each other. But here is the part I really want you to remember. You can have hope without chasing. You can understand him without excusing him. You can care about him without making his silence the center of your life. If he is still attached, he will eventually have to do more than send mixed signals. He will have to show you that his feelings are strong enough to become actions. Because you deserve more than hidden attachment. You deserve visible effort. You deserve communication. You deserve a man who does not just feel something for you, but knows how to show it in a way that makes you feel safe. So if this helped you understand his silence a little better, give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss the next one. And if his silence has made you question yourself, watch my last video next. You're more attractive than you think. Because maybe the problem is not that you were not enough. Maybe he felt more than he knew how to handle. And maybe you are more magnetic than you realized. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.